Lots was being monitored with respect to the Ayodhya case, and the latest is that there is no legal impediment, according to the Supreme Court, for reference to mediation. The Supreme Court also saying that there is no media reportage of the mediation in terms of the proceedings, and that was clearly being monitored as to whether or not the more than 70-year-old litigation of the Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid of Ayodhya should be referred to a mediated settlement.
So in other words, what the court is trying to say is that, they're okay with mediation, and that is what the decision was to be today. The Supreme Court was to rule today if Ayodhya should be sent to mediators, and between all parties, someone should do the job of talking to all parties and reaching a consensus or not. So in other words, the Supreme Court is saying that the case has been referred for mediation. The fact that they're saying that there is no legal impediment for reference to mediation means that they're okay with it. Within seconds from now, we should get in Abhimanyu as well and get in more details of what the Supreme Court judgment has been in this particular case. And we will, of course, have Supriya Srinath as well, Executive Editor, joining in for more details on this. Supriya, this is a big judgment indeed. The fact that Supreme Court is saying that they don't have any issues with mediation in the Ayodhya case.
Yes, it is, but I think there is a situation in the mediation process. The Ram Lala Trust did not want mediation, but the courts, and I think rightly so, are of the view that this is not just a property dispute. This is a dispute which involves faith. This involves faith and this involves sentiment, and the court has been saying all along, which is why a mediation should be given a chance. So I'm not surprised at all that the court has given 4 weeks for mediation, or we will perhaps get more graphic details from Abhimanyu as and when he joins in. But the reality is that this isn't just a title dispute, and I'm however wondering how this mediation is going to go forward, because remember the 2010 judgment of the Allahabad High Court quite categorically divided the land between 3 parties: the Sunni Waqf Board, the Nirmohi Akhada, and the Ram Lala Trust. Now it is very certain that the Ram Lala Trust has very categorically said, and so has the state of Uttar Pradesh, that the mediation will only sow the seeds of suspicion in the future, and which is why they are not on board. So let's wait and watch how this goes along. I think
let me just read it out to you.
Okay, I think Marjit Menon, a very senior counsel, is joining us. And sir, thank you very much for being with us. The courts are of the view that mediation can happen. What is your view on this?
See, mediation and an amicable sorting out of this most long-awaited and contentious issue of Babri Masjid and Ram Temple is most desirable, most welcome. The only anxiety is that, number one, is that why did Supreme Court not think of this mediation years ago, long before this matter is now pending for almost a quarter of a century. But better late than never. In any case, for the last about a year, Supreme Court has been suggesting mediation in the year 2018. Also, if you look at the history, once Supreme Court hinted and openly told the litigants, all the parties in the open court, why don't you go for mediation? And at that point of time, Sri volunteered to move about and see every litigant, every party in the dispute. But he did not succeed, did not get warm response, and therefore it seems he gave up. Now again, Supreme Court, but now since the Supreme Court has given an order that A, B, C, D would be the mediators, and the mediation should begin and wind up within a 4 weeks' time, I think this will have some impact, and this may get some progress into the dispute. I wish personally, and my party also, that the best course is to have some kind of an amicable arrangement between 2 major communities of this country, the majority and the major minority. And therefore, I think in the best interest of harmony, elimination of suspicion and hatred between 2 major communities, something should be worked out as suggested by Supreme Court.
Okay, just for the benefit of our viewers, I think it's important that I point out here the panel of mediators who've been finalized. There is Justice Kaifullah, Sri Ravi Shankar, mediation proceedings to be completed within 4 weeks. I think there's also something important that we need to talk about, that what about the fact that there were people who weren't on board for mediation and there will be no media reporting of that? If I could quickly get that answer from you. I'm also being joined by Ilyas Sharafuddin, the Islamic scholar, and Sagrika Ghosh on the phone line. But Ilyas, if you can take that question. The Muslim Sunni Waqf Board was on board, Ramlala Trust was not. What happened?
Well, you see, people may be anxious to become mediators, but it is ultimately the wisdom and the decision of the Supreme Court of India. And Supreme Court must have certainly weighed the plus and minus points, and ultimately when they came to conclude that A, B, C should be the mediators, I don't think anybody can now challenge or say that I want to become mediator or X or Y is not the right mediator. You see, now we will have to follow what Supreme Court has said. Now let us see, and this one good thing about what Supreme Court has done is that it has kept media as far as the mediation efforts are concerned. Because what happens is that comments, sometimes hurt the smooth progress in the matter like this, which is so very sensitive. So media should not feel let down, and media should not feel that it is violation of their right. It is in the interest of resolution of an important matter for which the whole country is anxiously waiting, that media will have to sacrifice that, hold on till the mediation process is over. Once the report would be brought to the Supreme Court, again in the Supreme Court meeting.
जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट के रिटायर्ड जज हैं वो इस मध्यस्थता मीडिएशन के चेयरमैन होंगे। जस्टिस पंचू और श्री रविशंकर इस मैटर में मीडिएशन करेंगे और कोर्ट ने जो भी पार्टी ने नाम सुझाया था उस नाम पे भी गौर किया।
क्या कोर्ट ने इस पर भी बोला है कि पैनलिस्ट या फिर जो पार्टीज हैं वो किसी को ना बताएं, शेयर ना करें जानकारी?
कोर्ट ने स्पेसिफिकली कहा है सारी पार्टीज को और मीडिएटर को कि मीडिएटर की प्रोसीडिंग्स रिपोर्ट नहीं होंगी, और मीडिएशन में अगर मीडिएटर की प्रोसीडिंग्स को कोई भी डिफिकल्टी होती है तो वो सुप्रीम कोर्ट से उसको क्लैरिफाई करेगी।
ये जो 4 हफ्ते का समय सीमा दिया है, 4 हफ्ते रिपोर्ट देने की बात कही कि फैसला आ जाएगा।
रिपोर्ट ऑलवेज मीडिएटर अपनी रिपोर्ट सुप्रीम कोर्ट के सामने सबमिट करेगा और वो रिपोर्ट सुप्रीम कोर्ट को अगर उसमें उनको कोई डिफिकल्टी होती है तो वो सुप्रीम कोर्ट से उस बात को क्लैरिफाई करेगी।
ये जो 2 बाकी जज हैं, श्री रविशंकर के बारे में तो हम जानते हैं कि उनका एक्सपीरियंस है, बाकी जो जज हैं कलीफुल्ला उनको अध्यक्ष पर है, क्या मेरिट क्या है उनको बनाने का?
जस्टिस कलीफुल्ला सुप्रीम कोर्ट के रिटायर्ड जज रहे हैं और ये सुप्रीम कोर्ट का विशेषाधिकार है कि वो किसको मीडिएटर अपॉइंट करता है।
ठीक है, श्रीराम पंचू के बारे में क्या जानकारी है?
देखिए उसके बारे में मुझे कोई जानकारी नहीं है, पर सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जो भी मीडिएटर पैनल अपॉइंट किया उसके सामने हम जाएंगे और अपनी बात
हो गया सर।
ठीक है,
हिंदू महासभा मौजूद है।
Okay, let me just quickly take this forward. The story really is that there will be mediation and people will be appearing before mediation. These mediation will be off the limits of media, and that is how things will carry on. I'm given to understand, I've got Abhimanyu Sharma on the phone line with us, and he was covering those proceedings for us. Abhimanyu, help us understand what really happened in the court, because there were parties who weren't on board with this mediation. So what happens for people who opposed it in the first place? I don't know if I have Abhimanyu. Okay, I've got Sagrika Ghosh also joining us on the phone line. And Sagrika, what is your take? Mediation is obviously an amicable process going forward. But do you believe this could pave the seeds for some kind of suspicion, some kinds of apprehension going forward? Or do you believe this is perhaps the best possible option that's available and this must be rested?
Well, Supriya, the mind of the court was clearly evident. Looking at hearts, minds and healing if possible. It wanted a negotiated settlement because it said this was the best way to restore peace. I think the Constitution bench has now made it very clear that it is not going to go into the historical injustices which the Nirmohi Akhara and the Ram Lalla Virajman board had wanted, but it is going to go in for a negotiated settlement. Politically, I think this puts the issue a little bit on the back burner, because now it's obviously going to take time, and the kind of summary judgment that perhaps some quarters had wanted is not happening. The court has come down very heavily on negotiation, peace, healing. Yesterday the court had said that it did not want to go into the historical injustices of what Babur did or did not do. So having now appointed these mediators, this may not be to the liking of certain quarters, but I think what the Supreme Court has said, that it has actually upheld Section 89 of the Code of Civil Procedure, where it says that where it appears to the court that there exist elements of a settlement which may be acceptable to the parties, the court shall formulate the terms of settlement and give them to the parties for their observations after receiving observations of the parties. So I think the senior counsel, Rajiv Dhawan, who was representing the mosque, has backed the idea of a mediation. But of course, the Ram Lalla Virajman has said that these are matters of faith and non-justiciable. And the Ram Janmabhoomi cannot be subject to any compromise. But on the other hand, the bench has said that all these matters should all be raised in the mediation process. So I think although the Ram Lalla Virajman had said that the Allahabad High Court had suggested negotiation and this had not worked out, however, the bench has said that it has not accepted that and has actually gone for mediation. So the objections of the Ram Lalla Virajman and the Nirmohi Akhara have not been taken up by the court, and the court has now proceeded towards a healing, peaceful settlement that it had indicated yesterday itself.
Hold that thought, Sagarika, because I'm given to understand Abhimanyu Sharma, who was reporting on this very issue, is also joining us on the phone line. And Abhimanyu, if I may come to you, is there anything that hasn't been reported, anything that was said in the courts? And, there were parties who were not on board to begin with as far as mediation was concerned, who had opposed this for mediation. What are they saying at this point in time?
Well, there is yet a reaction to come from the parties who initially had said that they wanted to come on board and who had opposed mediation. Rather, Swami had also asked before the court that there was no reason for mediation to take place in this dispute. He had claimed that the issue was
reason for mediation to take place in this dispute. He had claimed that the issue was already about nationalized land. It was already nationalized, and hence the government could have given it to anybody the government wanted to. Additionally, what remains to be seen is, given the panel of mediators who have already been appointed by the Apex Court, it has been made clear that 3 mediators would be there. The panel would be led by Justice Khalifullah. It would also comprise of Sri Ravi Shankar and another member, and it would begin its proceedings within 4 weeks, and it will also have to submit periodic status reports before the Apex Court. What remains to be seen is in what light this would be taken by the court, since it would be a part of in-camera proceedings, and things possibly would be taken on record, since there is a former Apex Court judge on the panel, and on the basis of which any further developments would be considered by the Apex Court.
Okay. Give me a minute, because I want to take this across to Ilyas Safruddin, who's also joining us. Is he with us right now? Can I go across to Ilyas?
Yes.
Okay, Ilyas Safruddin is joining us, and this is not a dispute that dates back to 2 years or 5 years or even a decade. This is a dispute that has been in the making for many, many years now, almost half a century, and which is why one is interested to know, the question that Majid Menon raised. Why could the courts not talk about mediation a long time back, and how receptive will the 3 parties be to mediation? Let's talk about the Sunni Waqf Board to begin with, Ilyas Safruddin, because this is, like the court said, this isn't just a title dispute on property. This is a dispute that really pertains to sentiments and to faith, and both of those are extremely entrenched.
See, I would like to say that there is never a wrong time to do the right thing. So why the courts have not decided this particular thing earlier and why they are deciding now, that is out of question now. When they have decided, let us abide it. And the mediation process, Justice Khalifatullah is there, Sri Ravi Shankar is there, both belong to Muslim and Hindu community, and based on the religious scriptures, our constitution and archaeological survey report and the hard facts, the mediators should try to resolve, because every Hindu will abide the Hindu scriptures and the Indian constitution, and every Muslim will abide the Islamic scriptures and the constitution. So let us take out a very good suggestion or a decision from the religious scriptures and constitution and archaeological survey report, and let us take this case to a logical conclusion based on facts, not on whims and fancies. It's a matter of astha, sentiments, agreed. It's a legal matter of land dispute, agreed. Now both the matters under the particular supervision of religious scriptures and constitution with basic references should be decided upon. Ravi Shankar, I strongly believe that he tried to prove himself this time at least a true Hindu and will give the verdict from the religious scriptures. So to Justice Khalifatullah from the Islamic scriptures also. The problem is none of the people are referring the scriptures and the things have deteriorated day by day. Come back to the scriptures, take out the solution along with the legal experts and survey report of archaeological, and let us decide it. And the mediation is a very good process. It's a very positive note, I believe, and it should bring out some results.
Give me a minute because I think Faizur Rahman is also joining us on the phone line, and thank you very much, Faizur, for being with us. Faizur Rahman, mediation, everybody is suddenly saying is a great thing. How much of that is going to be binding? Because the Supreme Court's the kind of people who've come in represent all faiths. There is also, the legal angle involved. I'm just interested to know how much of this is going to be binding on communities that have been fighting on this for a while. And you represent the Islamic Forum, so it's only fair that I ask you that question.
Yes. See, I respect the Supreme Court's decision to refer this case for mediation. But then what I'm not very sure is, if mediation was possible at all, this would have happened long back. Just because a mediation was not possible, the case was referred to the courts, and now it's in the Supreme Court. And it is a land dispute. Supreme Court has said it before also in some observation that they'll deal only with the land dispute and they'll not deal with the faith aspect. But now they are referring to the faith also. Of course, I respect this court decision. But once again, it all boils down to what you mean by mediation. If by mediation you mean that Muslim side must give up its claim, then that won't be fair. And if Muslim side had wanted to give up the claim, the matter wouldn't be in the court now. So we have to define what we mean by mediation. One good definition would be if the other side, which wants the Ram temple to be constructed, really, wants mediation and wants, the resolution of the dispute. They must give some undertaking, a written undertaking that they will not talk about any other mosque in India apart from Babri Masjid. Because I have read news reports before that there are other mosques in the list, like Gyanwati and other mosques. So if this is going to be the first kind of a step to, go for other mosques, then that won't be correct. So the Hindu side, in all fairness, must give an undertaking for a peaceful resolution of the issue that they will not ask for any other mosque in India. So if that is assured to the Muslim side, and I'm sure the Muslim side has already said that, we don't want any dispute. We're certainly willing to resolve the dispute by mediation, provided they don't ask for any other mosque. So, and they also said that even if the Supreme Court judgment goes against...
Okay, Faizur Rahman, give me a minute. Faizur Rahman, give me a minute. If I may just quickly take this forward with two political commentators who are also joining us, Nija Chaudhary and of course Manisha Priyam. And Nija, to you first. The fact that the court is talking about mediation and it's going to happen, on camera but will not be reported, does that create the atmosphere, does this create the environment for trust to breed and this sort of mediation to happen? It has to be completed in 8 weeks, and which is why I understand is the emergency, the urgency around this, at least that sting has been taken off before elections. Is that a fair reading?
I think 8 weeks you say, that's 2 months, so that is just before the elections. Isn't it? Elections probably will be completed, before the new government gets formed. But till tail end, 8 weeks from when is the question. Okay, I will respond to this that the government the Prime Minister said we will wait for the court verdict to come. He was under pressure to go in for an ordinance and the route of enacting a law to build a mandir there, but he chose to say, no, we will wait for the verdict. Now, the verdict says going for mediation. If through mediation a solution is found, then that will be a huge feather in the cap also of the Prime Minister just before the election process ends. Now, can it be solved through mediation? There have been many mediatory efforts over the years, and I remember right from the time when Mr. Krishan Kant and Yunus Salim. Mr. Krishan Kant was at that time governor of Andhra Pradesh, Yunus Salim of Bihar. They almost came to, this was during VP Singh's time, they almost came to a solution, but there was a leak
and that created counter pressures. And the Vishwa Hindu Parishad went on the rampage, and at that time the Shankaracharya of Kanchi was involved, and they backtracked and so on. Then efforts were made during Chandrasekhar's time, and at that time also there was almost a solution, and it was said that the Congress worried that there would be a solution and he'd get the credit for it, raked up the issue of the 2 constables outside 10 Janpath, and that led to the whole fracas, and the Chandrasekhar government went. P.V. Narasimha Rao's time, that whole 1 year before the demolition, was attempts to get the sadhus, sons and people from the other side, clergy, to engage in this question, but no solution. So there's been no dearth of attempts at mediation, and I would say it's a...
Right. Right. Neerja Chaudhary, thank you very much for joining us on this. But I'll quickly take a question to Manisha Prem before I wrap things. The Hindu Mahasabha says it is opposed to mediation. The Ramlalla Virajman says they're opposed to mediation. What sort of a mediation are we doing in this atmosphere of distrust and where people are not even willing to sit on the table for mediation? Is that even going to be possible?
So clearly, if you look at it from the standpoint of view of the Supreme Court itself, the Supreme Court as an institution has kind of distanced itself from both the partisan nature of politics around the building of the temple, as also from being an instrumental institution which is going to be seen as directing this way or that way on matters of faith. So for the Supreme Court itself at this point of time, a clear attempt to say that this is something that needs to be reconciled. The title dispute is something that has been settled, and if we try and understand this, it's only the title dispute on which legal wisdom can prevail. On all other matters, it is a matter of mediation once the title dispute has been resolved. So the mediation step for the Supreme Court is a redeeming step. Also, the Supreme Court has said that it's going to stay away from partisan politics. A decision this way or that way would have been seen as fanning or favoring one political party or the other. So as an institution, at this point of time, the Supreme Court redeems itself. As far as the mediatory body is concerned, you are right that whoever be appointed there, if Sri Ravi Shankar will be there, then the Shankaracharyas will feel left out. So who represents the Hindu holy faith? As we know, the Hindu holy faith on the ground is a plural faith. It's not a canonical faith. It's not something that is guided by one canon or one institution. It's a tradition that's rooted in different parts of India with different sources of wisdom, different types of rituals and faith and worshipping. All of this, the plurality.
Right. Right. Do I have her? I don't seem to get her audio. Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for this. On that note, I think I'd like to thank all my guests. We'll, of course, be talking about this later this evening. Markets are trading right now. Let's go back to them. But from a sentiment point of view, it's all very good for us to turn back and say this is a great day. You know, mediation has been ordered. This is just not a simple title property dispute. This needs faiths to sit across the table and try and get things done. The court has ensured that there'll be no media reporting, so one can't, you know, even quote source-based stories out of this. But the reality is that 2 weeks, for 8 weeks for this to finish will be bang in the middle of the election cycle. And I also think that factions of people who are still opposed to this, whether it's the Hindu Mahasabha, whether it is the Ramlalla Virajman, I don't know how mediation will carry on. But from the court's point of view, they're trying to do the unthinkable, which is trying to do it with mediation, which is trying to build a consensus. I also think one of the parting notes, like Manisha Prem was talking about, who is representing, you know, is Justice Khaifullah the right person to represent, you know, the Muslim faith? Is Sri Ravi Shankar representative of the Hindus at large? What about the Kachi Shankaracharya and all of that? So I think there will be a lot of pull of tugs of war here. But as of now, the court, instead of taking a call on itself, has said mediation is the way forward. And that is exactly what they've decided things on. This will be an on-camera, off-record mediation that will be done. The media cannot report on this. It has to begin within, you know, from the beginning of the mediation, it has to be completed within 4 weeks, which essentially means it's an 8-week process. It is perhaps going to be non-partisan, yes, But how this plays out as far as party politics is concerned is anybody's guess from here to elections. This is a big day. The court's trying to build a consensus where none has existed for decades now. Thank you very much for being with us on this leg of the coverage. We hand it over back to the studios in Bombay to take it forward with markets.